Hi, I'm Max with Customers Chasing You. Welcome to this episode. We're talking about advantages with a book. There's a lot of different advantages that you can get with a book if you have the right book and it's positioned correctly. But what we're going to talk about today is one that I think has huge leverage, and it's allowing your customers to get information over a short amount of time, long amount of time, but you always being really in the forefront of their mind. So let me explain. In a previous life, when I started in real estate, and I didn't know much about books at all. Really, when I got started in real estate, I didn't even like to read books. And then I started reading books, and then I started writing books, and I started getting these benefits that I'm talking about. Now I have books all over the nation. So, don't ever have self-limiting beliefs, because you never know what you're going to be capable of. And I've gotten so much value and so much benefit from books. And one of the main ways is that when I give a customer one of my books, it stays with them for a long period of time. It used to be when I did a lot of interruption mail, I would send 5, letters like every 6 weeks or every 4 weeks, or 6 letters. I think one time I sent a 7 touch yellow letter campaign, and it was, very expensive, and I had to pay for the list. Maybe I rented the list, and then, I sent it out. I think I stacked the list to a couple other lists, and then I sent it all out. I used a company, so that was nice. But, it just took like to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, sometimes to the very last touch for the customers to call. And for every one customer that I got that was a maybe, there was a bunch of other people that were just like, yelling and screaming, saying, stop sending me mail. And then when that customer did call me, they were calling everybody else who sent them mail. And so it just really isn't a space I wanted to be in at all. And with my book now and other books, what I found is like a really, really unique situation. I did not anticipate this to happen, but it's a big advantage, and it's a proven advantage because we use it every day. And so what it is that when I give somebody a book, they see me very differently. We've talked about this in other episodes, like the positioning in the marketplace and what your customers and what your peers, how they view you when you are an author. But what's interesting is that when I send somebody the book, one of a couple things happens. So if they were reaching out to other service providers before they found out about me, maybe it was a referral, maybe they did get some interruption, mail or marketing that I sent them, but it also had a messaging about the book, and it made them curious. So they were aware of me. And a lot of times when people are getting mail, they're aware of that person, but they're not curious. That's the next step. So they throw the mail away. But with the book and putting that on all the direct mail, now they're curious. And I sent them the book, and they're like, wow, this is really cool. I've never, a lot of our customers don't know anybody personally who's written a book. And I sign the book and I send it to them, and they just think it's really, really cool. And so what's really cool about it is they hold on to it for a long period of time. And one of a couple things happens. Either number one, they if they've called other service providers, they call them back once they get my book and say, hey, we don't need you anymore, we changed our mind, or we're going with somebody else. If they were thinking about calling other people, they call them, or they don't call them, right? And they just stop. And it's been so interesting. And I don't really even know how to phrase it perfectly. These are not about perfect videos. This is about sharing what works and then putting it into actionable steps. So what works is that when you send somebody a book, everybody else just kind of leaves their mind. And, so the houses that I've bought, the houses that licensees have bought with books, they're the only person there. The customer has they haven't said this to me directly, but the feeling I get is they're like, we're already dealing with the person who wrote the book on this subject. Why would we work with anybody else? And so that is a huge shift. And if you're in a competitive market, maybe if you're watching this and you're the only show in town, it would still have a benefit, but obviously not as much. I think there still would be some benefits, and we can talk about that on other videos because we got to wrap this one up. But when you can send your customer something, and maybe they've never met you before, but they're curious about you, and somehow you get the book across, and we have videos on all the different ways to do that. We have a whole training library for people who are in our community. But when the customer gets your book, and they stop calling other people, that's a very, very powerful tool. And another component of it that's very powerful too is that the customer is, they receive your book, they're reading it, they're going through it, And there's been so many times where if I was like I know a lot about real estate, right? Like, I've done hundreds of deals, I don't know everything, but I mean, when a customer is presenting a problem to me that's, something you see pretty often or pretty common. I'll give you an example. We have customers all the time that say, I really want to try to rehab the house myself so I can make more money. Or my mom's in a nursing home. I want to rehab the house while she's in the nursing home so we can make more money, And so and depending on their skills and their resources, but if they don't have a lot of cash or they need to sell it quickly or they don't have a contracting background, that may not be a really the ideal situation. And I know that from experience because I've seen people on the other side who have tried to rehab it and it's a disaster. And I ended up buying it for less money because they tore the house apart, right? Trying to fix it. You know what I'm talking about? But it's it doesn't matter what you think. It's do they believe it, right? So if you're there at the house and you're trying to convince them of something, it's almost like a pendulum. The more you try to convince them, the more they just don't want to follow that advice. But what's really cool is with the book is they read all the scenarios. And if you have a book and it's written in position to where there's a lot of different options and they get to pick one for themselves, they really pick one for themselves. And so I've had people call and they'll say, yeah, I read the book and I decided to do X, Y, Z. Or I decided that rehabbing the house myself is not what I want to do and I just want to sell it to you. And I'm like, okay, but listen to that key phrase, and we're going to close with this, is they say, I decided. But it's they came to the conclusion, but I obviously had some influence in that because I wrote the book. Now, we always want to have something that's factual. We never want to lie or mislead, to obviously make money. But, what an incredible influence. And what's amazing is the customer is attributing the decision just 100% on them, and it's I'm out of the picture, but it came from the book and the contents in the book. So you have an incredible amount of influence for whatever you do write in the book. So if you're on that journey, that is a big proven advantage. If you're tired of running around chasing customers and you're ready for customers to start chasing you, get involved in that. There's many, many more. So check out some of our other videos. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share it with other people. And until next time, be well, be blessed, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye, y'all.